All right, so let's do a little close reading. You need your books for this or your PDFs or whatever you have. We are going to be looking closely at little section number 3 in this. Those are the 3 little eyes for you Gen Zs out there. I know you get mad when I pretend like you guys don't know Roman numerals or when I know that you don't know Roman numerals. Okay, so this section of the book is talking a lot about what Winston knows about history and what he perceives other people either know or don't know about history. So he's thinking about his own memories of childhood. This is the chapter where he starts with his dream that he has, and it's vague, and we're not totally sure if it's metaphorical or not, but basically he starts thinking about the nature of his memories, and he says that he was struggling to think his way backward into the dim period of his early childhood. It was extraordinarily difficult. Beyond the late 50s, everything faded. When there were no external records that you could refer to, even the outline of your own life lost its sharpness. You remembered huge events, which had probably not happened, which had quite probably not happened. You remembered the details of incidents without being able to recapture their atmosphere, and there were long blank periods to which you could assign nothing. Okay, as an old person, I can attest to the fact that this is true. Um, I mean, there's obviously some government control going on of memories here, but even without that government control, your memories are not fully trustworthy. And I remember reading this in your comments section. I don't remember who was talking about. I think it was Savannah was talking about how your memories are not reliable, right? And here it says that you can maybe remember the details of the incident, but not quite the atmosphere. Like for me, I don't remember high school that well. It's not because I was on drugs or anything like that. Like I just don't remember what it felt like to be in high school. So I'm kind of reliving it with you guys as I see you guys go through it. And I think that I watch you guys go through high school and then I kind of attach that, the word he uses here is atmosphere, to my own experience, right? So it's not just that your memories are hazy and dim, but they are also extremely malleable. And he continues to use this language. He's talking about his mother carrying his baby sister, and he says he's not certain whether his sister had been born then. This is on the top of 33. And so he kind of like keeps injecting his recounting of his memories with these sentences like, and also I'm not even sure that this thing really happened this way, or that my, huge details are even accurate, including like whether my baby sister was there or not. Even though he remembers his mother carrying his baby sister, maybe she hadn't even been born then, right? So then the government, Oceana, kind of takes advantage of this hazy memory. So go to page 34. It's at the top of the page. It says, in no public or private utterance was it ever admitted that the 3 powers had at any time been grouped along different lines. This is Oceania, Eurasia, and East Asia. Actually, as Winston well knew, it was only 4 years since Oceania had been at war with East Asia and in alliance with Eurasia. But that was merely a piece of furtive knowledge, which he happened to possess because his memory was not satisfactorily under control. So a couple pages earlier, he's talking about his memory being hazy and dim and unreliable. Now he is saying that he well knew it's been 4 years. So in some ways, he's saying my memory is actually precise. But then he says that was merely a piece of furtive knowledge. In class, I would ask you, what does furtive mean? You have an idea? Okay. Furtive knowledge is basically like, it's secret, but it is like a little bit like scandalously secret. If it's furtive, it's got a kind of appeal to it, but kind of gross, if that makes sense. So furtive knowledge, it's like he wishes he didn't have it, but there is something appealing about ruminating on this. And it says that his memory was not satisfactorily under control. And that starts to hint at what the government does to control thoughts and particularly memories. Officially, the change of partners had never happened. Oceania was at war with Eurasia. Therefore, Oceania had always been at war with Eurasia. So what's happening here is that you not only are controlling history, but you are erasing history. That is not them trying to change kind of like our perceptions or our biases of history. That is them just saying it didn't exist. This thing, it didn't exist. What exists is the present, and what we say exists in the present, right? And then we move forward. Look at the last paragraph on that page 34. The party said that Oceania had never been in alliance with Eurasia. He, Winston Smith, knew that Oceania had been in alliance with Eurasia as short a time as 4 years ago. But where did that knowledge exist? Only in his own consciousness, which in any case must soon be annihilated. And if all others accepted the lie which the party imposed, if all records told the same tale, sorry, my dog is distracting me, then the lie passed into history and became truth. Okay, that's the most important part there. The lie passed into history and became truth. So historicizing something by claiming it as history, it becomes truth. Who controls the past, ran the party slogan, controls the future. Who controls the present, controls the past. Who controls the past, controls the future makes a lot of, I think, common sense, right? Because it's about victory. But who controls the present, controls the past. That's fascinating. That's not just about victors controlling the past. That is about rhetorical tools, like rhetoric controlling the past, right? So in the same way that the victors might tell us something about the past, the people who are interpreting that version of the past, including like you and me, right? We are also controlling the past to a certain extent. And yet the past, though of its nature alterable, never had been altered. So it's like they know that that is what is going on, especially Winston, who works in the Ministry of Truth. Like he knows that's what he is doing consciously, but because it's alterable, that means that it has never been alterable. And this gets him into this idea of doublethink. He says, to know, this is what doublethink is, to know and not to know, to be conscious of complete truthfulness while telling carefully constructed lies, to hold simultaneously two opinions which, cancelled out, knowing them to be contradictory and believing in both of them, to use logic against logic, to repudiate morality while laying claim to it, to believe that democracy was impossible and that the party was the guardian of democracy, to forget whatever was necessary to forget, then to draw it back into memory again at the moment when it was needed, and then promptly to forget it again. And above all, to apply the same process to the process itself. So you have to double think in order to pretend that you are not double thinking. Oh, I lost my place. That was the ultimate subtlety, consciously to induce unconsciousness, and then, once again, to become unconscious of the act of hypnosis you had just performed. Even to understand the word doublethink involved the use of doublethink. So it's this absolutely continuous process that he says here not just alters the past, but destroys the past. And to hold both those ideas at once. I think I'm experiencing a little bit of doublethink right now with this coronavirus stuff. I think we all have to doublethink to live in a community and to function in a community. Not to the extent that he has to doublethink in 1984. I'm not saying we live in this like dystopian society, but think about the way that we doublethink with this virus. Right now, I need to think to myself, it's not that bad. We're going to be fine. And at the same time, you have to hold in your head that idea, keep calm, carry on type idea, keep working, keep contributing to an economy, right? Keep online learning, all that stuff. At the same time, you have to hold in your eye, it is very dangerous, or in your head, it is very dangerous, and we have to self-isolate, and to think in your head, it's not that big a deal, and also it's very dangerous at the exact same time. I think it's a very minor form of doublethink. It's the way that we have kind of two parts of our consciousness sort of going at each other, and you are continually using logic to kind of reconcile those two ideas, but also to push them down, he says, into the unconscious, but then to pretend that you didn't just undergo that process, because if you're conscious of undergoing the process, that's going to undo the whole thing. He says on page 41, everything faded away into a shadow world in which finally even the date of the year had become uncertain. That shadow world is really interesting to me. Because that suggests that if there is truth at all, in this world, in Oceania. It exists in a shadow world. So, light often stands in for knowledge, right? And this is the absence of light, but it's not quite a darkness, right? It's underlying everything. So Winston himself has access to that. But he says it's because my memory is not fully under control, and he wants to erase the fact that he has access, but he can never fully erase that. What's really interesting to me here is that Winston thinks that lots of other people in his community have been able to do that. He thinks about Parsons and the man with the reflected eyeglasses, right? The man with no eyes. And he thinks, oh, those people, especially the man with no eyes, right? Think about the symbol there. Those people don't see the shadow world, but me, Winston, I do because I'm special. Think about how isolating and lonely that would be. Again, like I said, we have limited narrative voice here. The third person, limited omniscient, right? So we get inside Winston's head, but we don't get inside anybody else's. And I think that gives us a little glimpse into how lonely this must be, to think that you are the only one rebelling in your thoughts, and to think that you are the only one who has a problem with covering up your thoughts, and to look around the room and be like, and that guy gets it, and that guy gets it, and I'm the only one who doesn't get it. That kind of isolation is another means of control. And just one more idea about this idea of the shadow world. Go to page 40. And in the kind of 10 lines down or something, it says, all history was a palimpsest, scraped clean and reinscribed exactly as often as was necessary. The word palimpsest is what Winston is creating in the Ministry of Truth. A palimpsest is something reused or altered, but still bearing visible traces of its earlier form. So again, it's not darkness completely. It's not erased completely. There are traces of the original, and we are just building on top of that original, so that it's almost like that weight of all the different alterations of history kind of pushes the original down, so that you really don't have access to it anymore. But the truth is this, the history is this sort of combination of all that stuff, with the top one being most present, but all the stuff underneath being slightly visible, right? So it's not fully erasing the past. If this government could fully erase the past, then no one would have a problem with it, right? You'd be good, you'd be happy, you'd be like, oh yeah, Oceania has always been at war with Eurasia, and I'm good, and I'm going to keep going with my life. Oh, how lucky, they gave me more chocolate rations this year. I don't remember that there was actually fewer chocolate rations. I'm just going to keep sort of moving forward, right? The problem is the palimpsest. The problem is the traces. And that's the problem for individuals. Think about why a government might want its citizens to know that history is a palimpsest. Think about why a government might want to clue its citizens in to the fact that it is controlling the past and therefore controlling their individual lives.